The top business stories live from the Sky News City studio. Wage growth outpaces inflation for the 10th consecutive month, but unemployment has also edged up. The FTSE 100 mining giant Anglo American plans to break itself up in the wake of a £34 billion takeover approach. And could British Airways parent company IAG be about to buy TAP Air Portugal? I'll hear from TAP's chief executive. Good afternoon, this is Business Live with me, Ian King. Wages grew more strongly than expected again last month. The Office for National Statistics said regular wages in the 3 months to the end of March were up 6% on the same period last year. That was unchanged from the 3 months to the end of February and was stronger than the 5.9% growth that had been expected. It means that regular earnings have now been growing more strongly than the headline rate of inflation for the 10th consecutive month. Well, public sector pay grew by 6.3% during the period, while private sector pay growth was 5.9%. The ONS also reported that the unemployment rate rose to 4.3% during the period, up from 4.2% during the previous 3 months. The number of job vacancies in the economy fell by 26,000 to 898,000 during the period, which was the 22nd consecutive month in which the number of vacancies has fallen. We're on this programme this morning. The chief UK economist at Santander Corporate Investment Banking, Victoria Clark, told me some of the growth can be put down to the expected increase in the national living wage.
There is an element of this reflecting how tight the UK jobs market has been and how high inflation's been. And, you know, all of that takes a while to feed through into wage negotiations and come down. But the other element is that we have had another big increase in the national living wage this year, nearly 10%. And I think what you're probably seeing in some of these figures is firms front-loading some of those increases in a very similar way to the picture that we saw last year. And so it does seem as if that national living wage increase is also lifting the numbers.
Just want to bring you a bit of breaking news. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has unexpectedly arrived in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv, where we are expecting to hear from him imminently. We'll keep you abreast of what he has to say. Some other business news stories for you now. And the FTSE 100 mining giant Anglo American said today it will break itself up. The move means that Anglo will sell or demerge its 85% stake in De Beers, the world's biggest diamond miner. Anglo also plans to sell its thermal coal assets and will demerge its shareholding in Johannesburg-listed Anglo American Platinum. Well, the news comes a day after it emerged that Anglo, which in future will focus on its copper, iron ore and crop nutrient assets, has rejected an increased takeover proposal from its larger rival BHP, valuing it at £34 billion. Amazon is to replace the head of Amazon Web Services, its most profitable business. Adam Silipsky, who took over from Andy Jassy when he was promoted 3 years ago to become chief executive of Amazon, will step down on the 3rd of June. His successor will be Matt Garman, senior vice president of sales, marketing and global services at AWS. Shares of Amazon have fallen by 1% in early trade. IQ Group has become the latest UK tech company to agree to a takeover. The Cambridge-based company, which provides so-called geospatial productivity and collaboration software for the telecoms and utilities industries, is being bought by the US private equity giant KKR for £316 million. IQ said it had received numerous approaches over the last 2 years, but said the KKR approach, which came after extensive price negotiation, was the most attractive for shareholders. And the White House has announced that tariffs on Chinese electrical vehicles will rise from 25% to 100% to protect the US industry from cheaper imports. Tariffs on batteries, solar cells and certain critical minerals are also being hiked. Well, the move comes ahead of the US presidential election, with both Joe Biden and Donald Trump vying to appear tough on China. Well, shares of On the Beach fell by 12% this afternoon, following a warning that the value market end of the sector remains challenging. The online travel agency was reporting underlying earnings of £8.1 million for the year to the end of March, up 93% on the previous 12 months, which was driven by both increased passenger bookings and an increase in the average value of holidays sold. Well, joining me now is Sean Morton, Chief Executive of On the Beach. Sean, great to see you this afternoon. Obviously, the market's taken fright at what you said here. What proportion of the business is the value end of the market for you?
Yeah, I think the market has reacted there a little bit, Ian, but we're happy. We've had a good start to the year. There's lots of demand for booking holidays, and you can see that in our numbers. So Bookings are up 15%, sales are up 22%, and like you say, we've nearly doubled underlying profits. That value end, so 3-star, makes up about 25% of our volume. So in that segment where people are looking for quality and value, 4 and 5-star, 3/4 of our business performing incredibly well.
Do you expect things to change in that particular end of the market anytime soon?
I mean, I think the positive thing with that 3-star end of the market, we haven't really seen any price inflation. We had a very good year there last year, so the 2-year numbers are looking healthy, and we expect there to be lots of value there for people who want to take it and book a holiday for this summer.
But more broadly, summer bookings are looking pretty healthy.
Very good. I mean, we're 15% up year to date. The summer's currently 15% ahead. This is going to be our biggest summer ever.
What are the popular destinations?
Well, people are looking for quality and value. They're finding that in 4 and 5-star hotels where you can get some guaranteed sun. So in particular, the Canaries, the south of Spain, and increasingly Turkey. Turkey is somewhere that I think the UK tourist is going more and more. Big quality hotels, quality all-inclusive, excellent facilities and good value to be found.
Yeah, Bank Holiday Monday was a total wash-up. I imagine you had a lot of people on the website that day.
Yeah, well, sometimes when it's raining over here, we do see a bit more traffic on the web, that's for sure.
Now, you recently made peace with Ryanair, who were unhappy about you selling their flights. Now they're going to be part of your package holidays. What's changed?
Yeah, I think Ryanair they're very good at selling flights. They do it very well. They offer the lowest fares in the market. They're the biggest airline, and they're very reliable. They don't want to be selling holidays. So for them, making their seats available in our package holidays is a useful channel for those seats, and it's great for us. It's great for customers.
How important a part of the business could this be for you, this partnership now with Ryanair?
It's really significant. They're the biggest airline, and like I said, they offer the lowest fares, and they're very reliable. So it means we can offer very competitively priced package holidays. You can, if you book a package holiday with us with a Ryanair seat, it'll be good value, and you'll get all of the protections and convenience that you would get from booking with us.
Obviously, you offer long-haul options as well. What's the mix these days between long and short haul?
We're about 10% long haul now. Back in 2019, we didn't really have a long-haul offer, but we've developed it over the last 5 years, and we're particularly strong now in Dubai, and the Caribbean, and North America.
And what are you seeing in terms of inflation right now? I mean, obviously, the headline level here in the UK, inflation appears to be abating, as it is in other destinations right now.
Yeah, we have seen some price inflation, but it's not where it was a year ago. That's been falling. So year to date, price inflation is about 6%. And we've seen it come down a little bit over the last couple of months as we move into the summer. So I think things look positive for people who want to go away.
As we've been reporting, wages have now been outstripping the headline rate of inflation for 10 months. Are you starting to see cost of living pressures easing a little in some parts of the economy?
Yeah, I think we'll see that. I mean, if people are privatising spend on holidays, they're clearly finding that headroom in their finances, and we're finding people are booking earlier than ever, so they can spread those payments. And like I said, they're looking for value.
Yeah. So this trend that you mentioned here, an increase in the average value of holidays sold, you would anticipate that continuing? I
think that's going to carry on. Yeah. I think people are, when they go on their holiday, they're looking for something special, and they're increasingly finding that with 4 and 5-star all-inclusive. OK, Sean, got to leave it there. Really busy day for your results day. Do appreciate you coming in to chat to us. Thank you.
Now, one of the big events expected in European aviation this year is the sale of a stake of at least 51% in TAP Air Portugal. The airline achieved record annual profits for 2023 of €177.3 million, which was up from €65.6 million in 2022. But last week, the company reported a loss of €71.9 million for the traditionally loss-making first 3 months of the year. Well, joining me now, I'm very pleased to say, is Luis Rodriguez. He's Chief Executive of TAP Air Portugal, who's in the UK to commemorate 75 years of flying from London to Lisbon. Luis, good to see you this afternoon. Thanks very much indeed for joining me. What's the latest on the privatisation right now?
Thanks for having me, Ian. We have a new government since some months ago, and they're putting up their cabinets, and they're getting acquainted with the files and the dossiers and all of that stuff. And the government has signaled that this is a priority for them this year. Now, I'm sure this will require a lot of political work in the back office, and I trust that this event, which I'm glad that you call one of the biggest in Europe this year, will be one of political consensus more than political divide. So that's as much as we know right now. I'm sure we will hear from the government soon.
There's been an awful lot of speculation that the likes of Lufthansa or Air France or IAG would be interested in buying you. What have you heard on that front yourself? And is that terribly off-putting to you as you try and run the business?
No, I mean, all of them have been public about their intention to look at TAP very carefully once the process starts. And what we've been telling the team internally is we need to work as if it is not going to happen. Because one thing is for sure, if we paralyze waiting for it to happen, whoever comes, we're going to be in trouble. But if we keep working like it's not going to happen, and we keep in the good shape we are right now and keeping up, I'm sure whoever will come will say, okay, don't touch it, let it go, they're doing a good job. And that's essentially the mindset.
Now, obviously, the airline has had to undergo a pretty big restructuring following a Brussels-approved bailout. You've been at the helm of that. There were conditions attached to that bailout. How much of that is hindering you in terms of how you want to grow the business?
Well, not that much, actually. My predecessor was at the helm of the whole discussion mainly, and I took over at that point in time, about a year ago. We are under the restructuring plan until the end of 2025, so we are constrained in that sense with the number of aircraft and the number of destinations and new destinations that we can have. But that honestly is not bringing that much limitation to what we do, because we have a very limited infrastructure right now, and that's probably the key thing that this current government is having to solve. Is the new airport, which we've been discussing in the country for too many years, and we need a decision and we need to move fast.
Absolutely. Now, looking at your 2023 numbers, your passenger numbers were up 15%. Where were you seeing strongest growth? Which routes were doing best for you?
All of them are looking good so far, particularly this last quarter in Europe. Europe is looking very good. It looks like there was a shift. COVID made a shift in people's minds that we have a limited time here. Let's make the most out of that time. And so people seem to be willing to travel more and invest more in that process. And I was just listening to my colleague, the predecessor, was talking, Sean Morton, about strong bookings ahead. We're looking at the same thing. We had a tough Q1, but that's typical. And from April onwards, we're looking to a very strong summer. We're not particularly keen on making sure or trying to achieve a new record here. We just want to make sure we have a sustainable, profitable airline, and that's it. Not necessarily record after year, every year.
Now obviously, Portuguese-speaking markets such as Brazil, Angola and Mozambique are very important to you. How do you assess the health of those various economies just now?
They're okay. They've been struggling a little bit through their own problems, but they're okay. We see, for instance, a huge potential in Brazil, which is already a key market for us. Brazil's tourism is about 5% of the GDP. In Portugal, we are about 20% of our GDP. Now imagine 5% in Brazil doubling to just 10, which is still half of what we have in Portugal. In a country with that sheer size, that represents a lot. So if Brazilians start to discover Europe and Europeans start to discover Brazil, I can tell you that we are in a good position to move that people back and forth and to keep having a good business out of that.
And are you broadly happy with the size and age of your fleet right now? I know you've been investing quite heavily in Airbus A321 NEOs in the recent past.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we're quite happy with that.
And do you plan to invest much more in the fleet over coming years?
We have a number of airplanes coming here in the near future, replacing some old aircraft. We need to grow in line with our capacity to manage that growth and in line with our capacity to move around the Portuguese infrastructure, particularly Lisbon, which is tough. but there are opportunities in Oporto, in Faro, in the Azores, and in Madeira. So we want to make sure we grow consistently rather than on a big step at a time, and then we have problems.
And what's looking ahead for the rest of this year? How will the sales mix break down between business and leisure travellers?
TAP has always been, and I think it will continue to be, mostly a visiting family and friends and holiday travel company. We're seeing business coming back slowly a little bit, but we always will. So far, for the near future, we will rely on holidays, people traveling, coming and see friends and family, and that's what we've been doing, and that's what we'll be doing in the near future.
OK, Luis, we're out of time, I'm afraid. Come and see us again soon. It's been nice talking to you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Still to come here on Business Live, we'll have a look at how the markets have done this Tuesday afternoon. Stay with us.
I'm Greg Milam and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent. I've reported from around the world and around the UK.
I'm Mark Stone, I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Washington, DC. And beyond the United States, from across the world, I report on the biggest stories.
I'm Stuart Ramsey and I'm Sky's Chief Correspondent.
I'm David Blevins and I'm Sky's Senior Ireland Correspondent. I remember some of the worst of the violence here.
I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's Special Correspondent based in Istanbul.
Welcome back. Just want to remind you of what's going on in Kyiv right now. This is the live pictures. Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, has just arrived. This is the first time we've had a chance to hear from him since the $60 billion aid package was delivered to Ukraine by US Congress. We'll just have a listen in on this.
Mr. Secretary of State, on behalf of the many thousand family of Kyiv Polytechnics and the Kyiv academic community, we sincerely welcome you to our country and to our university. Today's meeting has a special significance in this dramatic time for Ukraine. Our nation was back to back during World War II, American and Ukrainian. And now you stand with us. We are grateful to your country and to you personally for supporting us in this historical struggle for Ukrainian independence. Our university, connected with the institutions of your country by many outstanding personalities who studied and worked at Kyiv Polytechnic Institute first, and then made a great contribution to the development of United States and to the world progress. Among them, for example, Igor Sikorsky, Stepan Timoshenko, Sergei Korolev, and a number of other scientists and engineers. And now, more than 500 KPI students are Microsoft employees. Several hundred of our graduates work at the Boeing Engineering Center in Kyiv, and I could give many other examples of our close cooperation of our university with the institutions of your country. Dear Mr. Secretary of State, students and professors, honorable guests present here, and many people from outside will be grateful for your address to them. Please take the floor, Mr. Secretary of State. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. And Dr. Skarsky, thank you for the introduction, but thank you especially for your decades-long contributions to science and education, and for leading Kyiv Polytechnic Institute through what is such a tumultuous time. And I am so grateful to be here with each and every one of you. Today marks 811 days since Putin launched his brutal war. Each day, a grinding struggle in which Ukrainians have demonstrated remarkable heroism and suffered immeasurable loss. A year ago, I spoke in Helsinki about how Putin's aggression against Ukraine had been a strategic failure for Russia, and what it would take to ensure that it stayed that way. Today, I'm here in Kyiv to speak about Ukraine's strategic success, and to set out how, with our support, the Ukrainian people can and will achieve their vision for the future: a free, prosperous, secure democracy, fully integrated into the Euro-Atlantic community and fully in control of its own destiny. We're meeting at a critical moment. Putin is ramping up yet another offensive against Ukraine in Kyiv and across the east, sending wave after wave of Russian soldiers, Iranian drones, North Korean artillery, and tanks, missiles, and fighter jets built with machines and parts supplied by China. The coming weeks and months will demand a great deal of Ukrainians, who have already sacrificed so much. But I have come to Ukraine with a message. You are not alone. The United States has been by your side from day one. We are with you today, and we will stay by your side until Ukraine's security, its sovereignty, its ability to choose its own path is guaranteed. And we're far from your only friend. Dozens of countries around the world are not just rooting for Ukraine's success, they're helping you achieve it. Now, after the delay in approving the latest U.S. assistance package to Ukraine, a delay that left you more vulnerable to Russia's attacks, Some Ukrainians may be wondering whether you can count on America to sustain its commitment. The $60 billion aid package that was approved by our Congress with overwhelming support across both political parties and both houses of Congress, I think demonstrates that you can. And a significant majority of Americans believe we should continue to provide assistance to Ukraine. Indeed, the American people's support for Ukraine has been consistent over the course of the war. It has never wavered. Americans understand that our support for Ukraine strengthens the security of the United States and our allies. They understand that if Putin achieves his goals here in Ukraine, he won't stop with Ukraine. He'll keep going. For when in history has an autocrat been satisfied with carving off just part or even all of a single country? When has that satisfied Vladimir Putin? At the same time, the American people want to know that we have a plan for getting to the day when Ukraine can stand strongly on its own feet, militarily, economically, democratically, so that America's support can transition to more sustainable levels. The Ukrainian people want the exact same thing. They do not want to have to rely on others to guarantee their security and their prosperity. And we do have a plan, and we're working together with Ukraine and a wide network of partners to realize it. And what I want to speak to you about this evening is what that plan looks like and how we're going to fully achieve it. First, we're helping to ensure that Ukraine has the military that it needs to succeed on the battlefield, to secure a just and lasting peace, and to deter future aggression. Anyone who doubts your ability to attain this goal should just look at what you've already accomplished. For 2 years, 2 months, and 21 days, you have denied Putin his goal of erasing Ukraine from the map and subsuming it into a greater Russia. You beat back Moscow's assault on Kyiv and foiled his plot to install a puppet government. You've taken back more than half of the territory that Russia seized in the first weeks of its full-scale invasion. You pushed Russia's naval fleet out of the Black Sea without a fleet of your own. Any territorial gains that Russia has made over the last year have come at tremendous cost to the Kremlin, in lives lost, in military equipment destroyed. You fought with courage and creativity, developing new weapons and new tactics to deploy them. People from every region, every community, every institution have stepped forward to serve, including at this university, where students, alumni, teachers, and other employees of Kyiv Polytechnic have answered the call to defend their homeland, putting aside their studies, their careers, their dreams, leaving loved ones behind. 88 of those men and women gave their lives for Ukraine's freedom. Many of their names are etched in the memorial on campus that I just visited with the rector. They include an aspiring book illustrator, a cancer researcher, a marathon runner, a musician who opened Kyiv's first school of rock and roll, a veteran who lost both of his legs fighting against Putin's previous invasion in the Donbass and volunteered to serve again when Putin reinvaded in 2022. Like countless Ukrainians, these citizens never asked others to fight for them. Indeed, all that Ukrainians have asked is that you get what you need to defend yourselves and your right to survive as a nation. Your recent mobilization was a difficult decision, but a necessary one. The defenders who have so courageously held the line for more than 2 years need help. They need rest. This will allow both, while providing your military with additional troops to fight off bigger invading forces. The mobilization will also allow you to harden your defenses, to build more units, to take the fight to Russian aggressors. Now, our joint task is to secure Ukraine's sustained and permanent strategic advantage, so that Ukraine can not only deliver on the battlefield today, but deter and defend against future attacks. As President Biden said, we want Ukraine to win, and we're committed to helping you do it. In the immediate term, the United States and dozens of other countries will get Ukraine the assistance that you need, and we'll get it to you quickly. We're going to help you hold off Russia's attacks, make it harder for them to strike you, and keep the Black Sea open so you can keep growing your economy and keep helping to feed the world. We know that time is of the essence. That's why, just 1 minute after Congress approved our massive aid package, President Biden sent ammunition, armored vehicles, missiles, and air defenses to Ukraine. Much more will be delivered to the battlefield in the coming days. Other partners are also speeding up delivery of vital military assistance. Poland continues to facilitate the transfer of nearly all of the aid that's flowing into Ukraine, including hefty contributions of its own. The Czech government is leading a Europe-wide effort to purchase 500,000 artillery shells. The UK recently announced a robust, multi-year military aid package. Australia committed new support for air defense. A truly global coalition is behind you, made up of countries that see your security and, in turn, European security as a core security interest of their own. Countries determined to defend the principles at the heart of the United Nations Charter: sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence. Countries that know that allowing Putin to redraw borders by force will embolden would-be aggressors everywhere. As Japan's Prime Minister Kishida said when addressing the U.S. Congress, the Ukraine of today may be the East Asia of tomorrow. Through the Defense Contact Group, which we set up shortly after Putin's invasion and is led by Secretary of Defense Austin, more than 50 countries are working hand in hand with Ukraine's military to identify and fill urgent needs. We've developed capability coalitions, groups of allies and partners who are addressing needs crucial to Ukraine's defense. Denmark, the Netherlands, and the U.S. are leading the coalition on Air Force. Estonia and Luxembourg on information technology. Norway and the UK on maritime security. These coalitions are pumping more support into Ukraine right now. As we help meet your immediate needs, we're also working together to help Ukraine build its future force. Our goal is to lay a foundation so strong that it dispels any doubts about Ukraine's ability to impose punishing costs on those who try to take its territory. As President Zelensky recently said, we're creating the security architecture that Ukraine has never had, but has always needed. We're bringing Ukraine closer to and then into NATO. We'll make sure that Ukraine's bridge to NATO is strong and well lit. At the last NATO summit in Vilnius, allies agreed that Ukraine won't have to complete a membership action plan before being invited to join, shortening its on-ramp to the alliance. We launched the NATO-Ukraine Council, elevating our cooperation and joint decision-making to the most intensive level NATO has to offer. Ukraine is much more than a recipient of advice and assistance. Your warriors are confronting the greatest threat to transatlantic security since the end of the Cold War and have as much experience as any on earth in fighting the wars to come. You have a lot to teach the alliance, and NATO will be more secure with your military by our side. When we hold the Washington summit in July, we'll take tangible steps to increase NATO's role in building a resilient, capable Ukrainian force, supporting its ongoing reforms, better integrating Ukraine into the alliance. And Ukraine's bridge to NATO will be bolstered by a series of mutually reinforcing bilateral security agreements. We now have 32 countries who are negotiating these agreements with Ukraine, 9 of which have already been completed. These agreements send a clear message that Ukraine can count on its partners for sustainable, long-term support. That's not a matter to be debated from one year to the next, nor is it a commitment by any one country. It's guaranteed by a broad and powerful network of nations for the next decade. Under our own 10-year agreement, the United States will support Ukraine's defense and security across a range of essential capabilities, from its air force to its air defense, from drones to demining. If Russia or anyone else were to attack Ukraine, we will work with Ukraine immediately at the highest levels to coordinate how to help you beat back the threat. Our bilateral security agreement will accelerate our joint efforts to build and build up Ukraine's defense industrial base so that you can produce artillery, ammunition, air defenses, and other crucial weapons you need here in Ukraine. Ukraine's innovation and resourcefulness has been central to its success on the battlefield. Figuring out how to use old Soviet launchers to fire U.S. and other allied air defense missiles, manufacturing new kinds of air and naval drones that can effectively evade detection. That same spirit has driven the growth of Ukraine's burgeoning defense industry, which counts more than 500 companies and hundreds of thousands of skilled employees. The key now is to ramp up production without losing that spirit of experimentation and adaptation that has fostered so many amazing breakthroughs. That will also help Ukraine's businesses attract more private investments to scale up and increase Ukraine's potential to become a defense exporter in weapons and in training. The U.S. has provided concrete support to build that industry. In December, we convened some 350 government industry representatives from the United States and Europe to deepen defense industrial cooperation with Ukraine. We created what we call a deal team with representatives from our departments of state, defense, and commerce to help U.S. defense companies navigate the regulatory hurdles of investing in Ukraine's industry. American companies have already reached several major agreements to produce munitions in and for Ukraine, and more are in the works. All of these measures, Ukraine's increased integration with and support from NATO, a growing network of security agreements with individual countries, a booming defense industrial base, all of these will ensure that the moment conditions are met and allies agree, Ukraine's invitation and accession to the alliance will be swift and smooth. These measures will also ensure that if Russia is ever serious about negotiating a truly just and lasting peace with Ukraine, your military prowess will be formidable, your hands strong, your path to Europe and NATO secure. Second, we will ensure that Ukraine's economy not only survives, but thrives. Ever since Putin failed to conquer Ukraine, he's been trying to lay waste to its economy. What he can't have, he wants to destroy. And yet, just as Ukrainians have courageously held their ground on the battlefield, Ukrainian workers, entrepreneurs, business owners have kept the economy running. From the farmers retrofitting tractors with artificial intelligence to sweep fields for landmines, to the workers repairing power stations to keep the lights and heat on, Ukrainians' grit and ingenuity are fueling the economy. And they're the root of Ukraine's extraordinary potential for the future. In 2023, despite living with nearly a fifth of the country occupied by Russian forces, and with your cities and industries under relentless bombardment, Ukraine's GDP grew by 5%. Private investment increased by 17%. State revenue rose by 25%. In 2023, 37,000